this is going to be, I'm looking for a great crowd here post-COVID. Let's hope this way. And on this area, this is a workshop that basically has been organized by the National Science Foundation that has been very interested on connecting bioscience and physical science, bring them together and put this together. That would be impossible without everybody being here. But I wanted to say that before I do a few presentations, I want to introduce Krestan Blagoev, that basically has been a force behind this workshop, and he wants to say a few words.
Yes. Thank you, Jose. So my name is Krestan Blagoev. I work at National Science Foundation. I manage a program called Physics of Living Systems. I just want to correct Jose, I did not organize the workshop. NSF did not organize, we funded the workshop. It was organized by Hilao and yes, Hilao and Jose and Herbie Levine. Without them, this would not have happened, and I especially want to thank Hilao because the work that he put behind this for the past year has been amazing. He brought overview. Thank you so much for coming here, and I think it will be a great workshop. I just want to say one sentence or two about the origin of this workshop. I had a discussion about a year and a half ago with my assistant director for mathematical and physical sciences, Sean Jones, who will speak in a second. And we were discussing what kind of things we should be doing at the interface between biology and mathematical and physical sciences. And we had a program called a Dear Colleague letter encouraging people to apply for using physics, theoretical physics approaches to cancer. And we were discussing what is the next thing that we should be doing. And Sean said something very interesting that I haven't thought about it. He said, the real economic problem in the United States is not going to be cancer, but neurodegenerative disease. And what can we do about it? And then I started looking and talking to some colleagues, and I realized that we have made very little progress actually in curing or even having anything, idea how to approach a medical cure for this kind of disease. And so I stayed away from this. We stayed away from that because it was mostly NIH domain. But not understanding the basic science, we will not make progress in these complex diseases, including cancer and neurodegenerative disease. So then I contacted some people in the community, especially Jose and Herbie, and they brought Hilao. And this is how it started about a year and a half ago. And we've been working, as you know, for a year to organize this workshop. And I'm very, very proud of what we've accomplished. So I would like to introduce the Assistant Director for Mathematical and Physical Sciences at National Science Foundation, Sean Jones. Thank you, Sean, for coming.
Okay, great, excellent. Good morning. It's really a pleasure to be here. As Krestan said, I'm Sean Jones. I'm the Assistant Director for the Directorate of Mathematical and Physical Sciences at the National Science Foundation. And before we begin, I want to thank a few folks. First, I want to begin by thanking the organizers of this workshop, Dr. Untitled from Rice University, Dr. Lashul from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, and of course, Dr. Levine from Northeastern University. Herbert actually contacted me and said, hey, would you make a few remarks at the beginning of the workshop? And when Herbert calls, you have to say yes. So I really do appreciate being here today. And Herbert actually serves on the Mathematical and Physical Sciences Advisory Committee. He's been a champion of the work here in the interface of biology and the physical sciences. He's been working with us with actually a subcommittee on MPS in the living world and really contributing there and advancing things forward. So I'm very excited about being here today. I also want to thank Rice University for hosting this workshop and getting things organized, as well as all of my federal colleagues from NIH and NSF. If you didn't know, this is actually a federal holiday, and we actually have some folks that are participating online. We have colleagues that are here in the room, and that just is a testament to the passion, but also the importance of this particular topic. So I really want to recognize them and thank them as well. So as Krestan mentioned, this workshop was born out of a conversation that he and I had a few years ago, inspired actually by some work that I was engaged in while I was at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. At that time, I was working with Philip Rubin, and he was trying to get a federal-wide, all the federal agencies in the government interested and aligned on a new initiative or project at the time called Understanding the Brain. And it was during developing Understanding the Brain as a federal-wide construct that I really learned about the importance, the complexity, and really the dire state that we're in terms of understanding the fundamental mechanisms when it comes to neurodegenerative diseases. So after that conversation with Craston, actually, about what are our next steps, I learned a lot more, actually, about NSF's Mathematical and Physical Sciences Directorate in our communities, chemists, mathematicians, materials researchers, and physicists, in terms of how our communities are leveraging their disciplinary knowledge as well as their individual siloed approaches to understand, control, and leverage the properties of biological systems. Probably the oldest program, and I'll give homage to physics here, within the directorate would be the Physics of Living Systems core program within the physics division. More than a decade ago, NSF's Physics of Living Systems program joined forces with Stand Up to Cancer to support theoretical approaches that advance our understanding of the mechanisms behind cancer, including embedding physicists within teams of cancer researchers. Building from this core program and others, NSF continues to support research to develop physical models for cancer progression, study of micromechanics of neuronal axons, and even understand the fractal physics of the cell cortex. Last year, MPS and the Directorate for Biological Sciences held a joint workshop with Stand Up to Cancer on cancer interception and convergent research approaches, where workshop attendees discussed ways to harness the talents, abilities, and innovations from the biological, mathematical, physical and computer science, and engineering communities to develop new technologies that address important fundamental science questions in biotechnology as well as biomedical sciences. This year, MPS the Directorate collaborated with the National Cancer Institute on a series of workshops focused on advancing our understanding of cancer as a living material through 3 square tables featuring academia, government, nonprofits, and industry to discuss 3 grand challenges: transformative directions in new biological materials design, innovations in imaging cells and cellular dynamics, and the use of big data as well as theory to improve our understanding and prediction of emergent cellular behavior. Granted, there's still much to be done in understanding the basic science of cancer as well as living systems, and we will continue to invest in this, but I'm excited to actually expand this conversation today well beyond cancer, but now to neurodegenerative diseases. Now, where there are many efforts to fight cancer, not as much has been done, actually, as Craston said, to actually understand these fundamental mechanisms in the class of diseases that impact millions of Americans and millions across the world every day, neurodegenerative diseases. Now, I know this crowd's very familiar with the motivation here, but I just want to remind you of a few statistics before we go into the workshop as context. Now, while the death rates from stroke, heart disease, and HIV actually all decreased from the year 2000 to 2019, deaths from Alzheimer's disease actually have increased, and they've increased by 145%, substantial. Currently, as many as 6.2 million people in the U.S. have Alzheimer's disease, which is about 1 in 3 over the age of 65. It is estimated by 2030, roughly 1 in 5 Americans will be in this age category above 65, meaning that we can expect that more than 12 million will actually suffer from neurodegenerative diseases. This is currently costing the United States over $305 billion annually, and as cases increase, as predicted, the cost will grow well above $1 trillion, substantial amount of GDP. These numbers will only increase when you factor in other neurodegenerative diseases beyond Alzheimer's, such as Parkinson's, Huntington's, ALS, multiple sclerosis, spinal muscular atrophy, and those categories of dementia that are not actually under Alzheimer's, and many others. Despite more than decades passing since the discovery of pathological protein aggregates in the brains of patients with neurodegenerative diseases, we still are without effective therapies to treat or slow the progression of these diseases. This is because we still have so many fundamental questions about normal cell function that we have yet fully resolved, including protein folding and aggregation. If we are going to get anywhere treating neurodegenerative diseases, we need to take major steps to understand the underlying physics and basic phenomena and mechanisms of these diseases. Workshops like this are an important step to galvanize the biological and physical sciences to deepen our core understanding, which will better inform our colleagues working in the more translational and therapeutic spaces. The time to act is now. It is our hope that this conference will be the start of many conversations about how we can leverage expertise in the biological and physical sciences from our communities to ensure the future health and welfare of the nation and our global community. The work you do here this week will lay the framework for new funding opportunities that complement current NSF funding efforts in understanding the brain, understanding rules of life, and molecular foundations for biotechnology, as well, again, as those that you will envision as a function of this workshop. So, please be ingenious. As they say, think out of the box. Be as creative as you can, and most importantly, be open to new perspectives. As you envision next steps, please build in ways to increase equity at the research table. We actually don't know where the next big idea is going to come from or where solutions will come from. So spend some time during the workshop to build in conversations in ways that we can answer these grand challenges as inclusive as possible. I look forward to learning more about the basics of neurodegenerative diseases, and I'm very eager to see what transpires out of this workshop. Together, we can and we will take a stand against neurodegenerative diseases and their devastating impact that they have on our society. Thank you all for your time, and thank you for working towards a healthier tomorrow, and thank you. Back over to you.